What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Soul Knife Rogue. A very popular rogue, a fan favorite, and I think a favorite of all of you in the comment section as well. So thank you all so much for watching the ranking video earlier this week, and now we get to do the fun part and build one. And boy, have I taken this in a weird direction, but we're gonna have some fun with it, and it's gonna be a good time. Before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and of course make sure to share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Another great way to support this channel is going to be by becoming a member. Down below you can click that join button, and for only $2 a month you get access to all of my build guides as well as my subclass fix guides. It's a great way to support the channel, very cheap way to support the channel, and of course you get some amazing stuff in return. At the Silver Snapper level, just one level up, you of course are going to get access to all of my videos 24 hours early, as well as a special shout out in my videos, which is awesome. And then the gold tier is still developing, but we have a special part of the Discord open for that, and then we are adding a few more perks as we go as well. Thank you to all of you for watching. Of course, your support means so much, and so let's go ahead and jump into the video. So the Soul Knife Rogue is super fun, right? We've got a skill junkie, we've got the pull weapons out of nowhere, we've got a lot of cool things that are happening here. The ability to use these dice but not necessarily expend them unless they actually do something is a huge help and makes this subclass super fun. So today I wanted to take it in a weird direction because this is the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel. It's kind of what I do. And so we are going to take that and run with it in a very weird way in order to have some fun with it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Is this the optimal way to do this? Probably not. No, your optimal way is probably just to go 20 levels in Rogue, but we're here to have fun, and that is exactly what we are going to do. So let's jump into it. So here are the rules, of course, for this series, and we're going to start off, of course, with our race. Now, I'm taking a race that I have not taken in a really long time on the channel. I really don't know the last time I took this race. I know I've taken it in the past, at least at some point, but I really can't pinpoint the last build that I did with this. But it's a really good race. I don't know why I've taken so long to use it, but the Aasimar is really cool. The Aasimar, of course, is a basically fallen celestial, and you can really play this up for some really cool roleplay moments. I like the flavor of it a lot, and of course we get 3 different options at level 3 now that we are using the new Mordenkainen's rules. There used to be 3 different sub races, but of course now that's been all combined into just one race, and then you get a feature with it. We're going to be, of course, taking the Radiant Soul version, which is what the Protector used to get. And so I think this is really cool. It gives us a flying speed and also gives us some extra radiant damage that we can do. Never going to be a bad thing, especially with what we're doing. I think the flying speed is going to be really nice. We also get things like celestial resistance, which is great, and healing hands for some free health. So I really like that as well. For our stats, of course, modified standard array as always. If your table uses something different, then you can adjust accordingly, going from top to bottom. Starting off, we're going to go with strength. Yes, this is another strength-based rogue. I have now done 2 strength-based rogues. I really didn't think I was going to, but I just felt like I had to do something really weird since this subclass is so OP. I wanted to do something weird and fun with it, so we're going strength-based this week. We're putting our next highest into Constitution, and then making sure we have at least a 13 in Dexterity for multi-classing purposes. Then we're going to take our next stat in Wisdom, and then I do not care about Charisma and Intelligence. You can do whatever you want with that. I'm going to put my +2 into my Strength and my +1 into my Constitution, and I'm going to leave that Dexterity as an odd number for now, but that will be corrected a little bit later. As far as equipment goes, all we are going to need really is some armor. And honestly, the armor is also kind of possibly not what you want. You actually could go without armor and really just not have anything on this build, to be honest. There's some really cool stuff that we're going to do with this. For the first few levels, you probably will want some kind of weapon just to get by. But by the time that we reach pretty early level, we're really not going to need weapons anymore. So maybe take some daggers or something like that can be thrown. That might be nice. You could take a melee weapon if you wanted to. If you wanted to take like a rapier or something, you could. But I don't think it's really going to be necessary here. So just take something to get you by, and then you will eventually be throwing this in the trash, and you will not need any weapons on this build very soon. So really cool stuff. At level 1, we are going to not be a rogue. We are instead going to be a barbarian. This is another barbarian rogue, but we are going a completely different direction than what we did last time. So don't worry, we're not doing the same thing we did last time. So of course here we get rage and unarmored defense. Now your unarmored defense may not be the worst thing in the world here actually, just because our dexterity is so low. So I mean, depending on what your stats are, you may want to just go unarmored, and that really will depend on what your table has. If you rolled stats and rolled really, really well on the applicable stats for unarmored defense, then by all means, use that instead. But that's really whichever one is higher between medium armor or unarmored defense, go with that. Of course, rage is great here. We are going to be doing that on all of our melee-based attacks. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. Barbarian 2, reckless attack, which means to me free sneak attack, and we are going to get to that here in just a little bit. Of course, if you do not know what barbarians do, I'll put the barbarian guide up in the iCard above for you to check out. It's been a long time since I've covered that, but barbarian is still pretty solid, especially here at the early levels. And then of course danger sense as well to help us out with those dexterity saves. At level 3, we are not going barbarian just yet. I want to go ahead and take some rogue levels here, because I think going ahead and getting our subclass now that we have the free sneak attack is going to be more important. Because I want to get my psychic blades online, and then I want to be able to switch things up. If you want to take Barbarian 3 here, by all means go for it. There is every reason to go ahead and take it here, and you'll see what we're taking a little bit later. But I personally would like to go ahead and get sneak attack going, and so keep that finesse weapon, keep that thrown weapon, whatever it happens to be, and that's fine for now. But if you'd like to go with Barbarian 3, by all means you can do that. But I'm going to go ahead and go Rogue 1, grab expertise, sneak attack, and thieves' cant here. So a little bit of extra damage with sneak attack as long as we're using that finesse or ranged weapon. So make sure you're using a weapon that does qualify for that, as well as being melee. So again, a rapier is a really good option here. It has the finesse property, but you do not have to use the finesse property as long as it has it. So we can use strength and make attacks with a rapier for now and go from there. And of course, we'll be throwing that in the trash here in just a few levels. Rogue 2, cunning action, fantastic feature. Of course, opens up our bonus action quite a bit after we rage. I mean, even before we rage, as long as we can get ourselves into a good position, then we can rage as the bonus action, and then our bonus action is open to do whatever we want with other parts. Our bonus action obviously is going to be accounted for very consistently once we have psychic blades going, but still gives us some really cool options. And speaking of which, at Rogue 3, we get our subclass, which gives us psionic power, psychic blades, and steady aim. We're really not going to need steady aim here, so that's nice. That's a good bonus action redundancy that's off the table, just because we do have reckless attack, so I'm not worried about that. But we have our psychic blades now, which is really cool. So whenever we attack, we can use this, and really we can get rid of our weapons at this point. You know, we're level 5, we no longer need weapons. We can get rid of them. We can create weapons on our own, and as long as we don't run into a mind flayer or something like that, we're gonna be okay. So then we're going to jump back to Barbarian for a few levels and go ahead and grab our subclass now that we have our Psychic Blades online. So yes, we're going to have more levels into Barbarian than we are into Rogue at the moment, but I promise we're going to go back to Rogue and then stay there the rest of the time. This is cool. Now we get to take our subclass, and I wanted to go with a kind of weird option. We're gonna go with the Beast Barbarian actually, and this is one of my favorites. I think it's super fun, and it works really well with the Psychic Blades as far as I'm concerned, or at least it will here very shortly. So here's the thing, we don't have to hold anything in our hands in order to use our claws, right? We also don't have to have anything in our hands in order to use our Psychic Blades. So these start to work pretty well together as far as I'm concerned. And so basically what I need is extra attack, and then I can make one attack with my Psychic Blade, which allows me to then make an attack on my bonus action with another Psychic Blade. Then if I have extra attack, on the second attack, I can attack with a Claw, which allows me to make a bonus attack, not using my bonus action, with the other Claw. So that's putting us making 4 attacks in a turn, which is pretty cool. So that's what we're gunning for. We're gonna go ahead and snag extra attack really quick, and then we will go back to Rogue and stay there the rest of the way. So that's what we're gonna do. I think that just sounds like too much fun. Being able to make that many attacks is going to be awesome, and who wouldn't want to do that, right? Even though it is melee, even though it's all that stuff, it's fun. Again, this is a fun build. It's what we're doing. We also get Primal Knowledge, which is a pretty cool thing, honestly, especially with rogues getting the expertise and being skill monkeys already. Primal Knowledge works really well here, honestly. And of course, there are plenty of other subclass options that you could go with here, and I'll talk about those at the end with the honorable mentions. At Barbarian 4, we're going to get a feat. Finally, it's been forever, or ASI if you want. And honestly, I think the Fighting Initiate feat is actually pretty cool here, so that we can grab the Dueling Fighting style. This means that we get a +2 bonus to damage if we're holding a weapon in one hand. You have to talk to your DM as to whether or not your claws count for dueling, because technically I would say they don't, but your Psychic Blades do, because you're only going to be holding one at a time in a hand. So talk to your DM about the claws, but I personally, I don't think that those would count, but the Psychic Blades definitely would. So definitely some extra damage every time you use those Psychic Blades, which is going to be really, really cool there. And then Barbarian 5, extra attack, which is great. So we're now making 4 attacks in one turn, which feels super cool. And none of the attacks are particularly huge, but 2 of those have a chance for sneak attack. If you miss the first one, you get that bonus action shot to go for it. So we have 2 chances to get sneak attack, so that way we're not just locked into only one chance, and if we miss, then we're done, right? You can't sneak attack on the claws, unfortunately, because they are simple melee weapons, so they do not count. So can't do that, sorry. But I do think that it's still really, really cool. And another really cool way that we can spice things up is at Rogue 4, we get another ASI or feat. I wanted to go with, again, something very, very weird. And we're gonna go with a new feat from the new giant themed book, and that is Strike of the Giants. So you basically choose a type of giant to associate with, and then you can deal a little bit extra damage, and some of them provide you with extra little features here and there that may force a save or whatever it happens to be. We're going to go with one that's just pure damage, actually, and that is going to be the Fire Giant Strike. So basically all it is we can add a D10 of fire damage, which is pretty cool, and we can do that several times per day. I like that. I think that's really cool. I'm really setting this up for something else, but I think it's cool. Extra damage is extra damage as far as I'm concerned, and we can add that to one of those attacks during the turn, which is awesome. At Rogue 5, we get Uncanny Dodge, really great defensive feature, especially combined with Rage. Yeah, you're taking hardly any damage on that, which is really awesome. Rogue 6 yields us Expertise, which is great. We just picked some stuff up from Primal Knowledge, so we might be able to use those, which is really cool. We also then get Evasion at Rogue 7, another great defensive feature. We do not have proficiency with dexterity saving throws on this build, so that's something to keep in mind, but it's not really a huge deal just because we do have Danger Sense, so I'm honestly okay, and to me they end up evening themselves out, so I'm okay with it. Then at Rogue 8, we get another ASI or feat, and this one's really cool. So, of course, in order to get Strike of the Giants before, we had to have martial weapon proficiency, which we got from being a barbarian, which is cool. And in order to get the feat we're taking now, which is Ember of the Fire Giant, we have to have taken Strike of the Giants before. And so here we are taking that. I really like these 2-stage feats. I think they're really fun. This one I don't think is necessarily the most powerful one. I definitely like Storm a lot, but I only like the Strike of the Giants feature. I don't necessarily like the second feat that goes with it, unfortunately. So to me, I felt that the fire version worked the best, at least as far as having the two together in tandem. So that's why we did what we did. Number one, it allows us to increase our strength by 1, which ends up closing that odd number, which is great. We now have resistance to fire damage, which definitely can be useful, especially on top of our already resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. And on top of all of that, whenever we take an attack action, we can replace a single attack with a magical burst of flame. Every creature of our choice in a 15-foot sphere has to make a dex save, which is really cool, and it's based on our strength modifier, which is really cool. And the creature takes 1d8 plus proficiency bonus fire damage and is blinded until the start of our next turn. That's pretty cool, honestly. And yeah, of course, if they save, then they take half as much damage, but still we get this proficiency bonus times per day. And to me, that blinded condition is pretty nasty, right? I think that can be incredibly useful, especially if you're really wanting to make sure you have advantage and don't necessarily want to go reckless. That allows you to do that on the next turn, which is pretty cool, as well as all of your other allies who want to get in there and have advantage on attacks because you can see it, but it can't see you. That's pretty gnarly, and I think that's really, really fun. At Rogue 9, we get Soul Blades, which is a great improvement to our psychic blades already. Allows us to hit a little easier, that kind of thing, which is pretty awesome. At Rogue 10, we are going to get another ASI or feat, and I probably would take the Slasher feat here. We can't take Piercer because we're not dealing piercing damage with the blades, even though they are daggers, kind of. They deal psychic damage, so they would not qualify for that. So we're gonna take Slasher instead, and that's going to help us to improve our slashing damage, and it also slows down our targets, which is also really, really nice, especially if we are closing in and really going for that melee kill. If they can't get away from us, then they're kind of out of luck, right? Because even if we have to use our bonus action to dash, then we still get 3 attacks on that creature, which is pretty great. So I really like that. Then at Rogue 11, we get Reliable Talent. Always a great thing, being able to pass on those ability checks that much more reliably. Rogue 12, you might as well beef up a little bit more. Let's go with the Tough feat in order to add some extra HP on there. Can't go wrong with that. Rogue 13, Psychic Veil. Now we're invisible. Now we can turn invisible. So not only can we blind people, but we can also become invisible, which is a really, really great combo there. Blind Sense at Rogue 14, which is pretty cool. Being a melee version, I think that this will come in handy more than most rogues, which is great. And then finally, Rogue 15, Slippery Mind, giving us proficiency in those wisdom saving throws. So what do you think of today's build? I know it's weird. I know it's odd. But you know what? It's fun, and that's the whole point. We're here to have fun. We're not necessarily here to min-max, and I really think that this is a really great way to go about dealing with this subclass. Now, before we jump into looking at the actual honorable mentions like I normally do, I want to mention one quick alternative. If you wanted to skip out on the 4th attack, but end up gaining Rend Mind in the end, which is a fantastic feature, definitely don't be afraid to skip 4 and 5 if you're going to level 20. Don't be afraid to skip Barbarian 4 and 5 and then end up with Rend Mind at level 20. To me, though, most builds are not going to get that far, and so most people would rather have the 4th attack, and so that's why we went with what we went with. So just wanted to throw that out there, but now proper honorable mentions. Number 1 is going to be, of course, the fighter. I'm trying to be really good about not putting fighter on every build, but the Psy Warrior fighter just fits this really, really well. The flavor is there. The mechanics are similar. Of course, the 2 pools of psionic energy dice do not mix, even though they are named the same thing. They are not the same thing, and they do not mix. So you got to keep track of 2 different pools, which can be a little cumbersome, but still really cool and definitely fits the theme. Next up, the Swords Bard actually I think works really well here as well. The flourishes honestly are really cool when combined with how the psychic blades work, and so that's something to definitely consider if you want to do some really weird multiclassing. I'm about that. And speaking of also other weird multiclassing, the Great Old One Warlock honestly is a really cool bring. I normally would not recommend a Warlock here on a rogue, but I think it works. And you could say that your psychic blades were part of your pact, and that that definitely could work. And all the flavor is right there. There's a little bit of redundancy with the telepathy, but honestly, it's really not that bad. So I think it's pretty cool, honestly. As far as the other feats that you could take, Mage Slayer honestly is one that I would consider. I really like Mage Slayer personally. I know it's not the most powerful feat out there. I know it's not most people's favorite, but honestly I think it'd be okay for something that is wanting to get in on these magic users and hit them with melee attacks. I think it could be very useful. We also have any of the other giant strike options. I really think that those work quite well in this case, and are honestly really cool in combination with our claws or in combination with our psychic blades. I think all of it works well together. Forcing those weird saves is always going to be a fun thing as well. So yeah, really cool stuff there. And finally, Sentinel. We're moving around, we can dash as a bonus action and then get up in somebody's face and lock that down. That's huge. And I think that Sentinel would work really well on this type of a build. Finally, other race options. Number one, the Bugbear. The Bugbear gives us reach, which is huge, and I think that would work really well. That was definitely my second option here. It gives us a lot of great value in this, so definitely consider that. The Harengon is another great one just because that gives us hair trigger, because we don't have a high dexterity, so having that bonus to initiative is going to be really helpful among other things. And finally, the Half-Orc. The Half-Orc is great as a barbarian, as just anything, honestly. And being able to withstand a strong hit and stay up at 1, that's never going to be a bad thing, and I'm always going to be happy to have that around. So that is our build for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, we are going to be covering our penultimate build, I believe, or our penultimate ranking rather, the Swashbuckler. And so we're going to have to see how it deals with all of the other subclasses. But until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.